They convicted Ray Krone of murder in 1992. Then a California lab ran a DNA swab that had been sitting in an evidence freezer for a decade, and the profile that came back didn't belong to Ray Krone. It belonged to a man already in prison when the bite mark expert took the stand and told the jury, "This is your killer." Kim Ancona was found dead inside a Phoenix bar in December 1991, stabbed, sexually assaulted. And on her body, the medical examiner documented bite marks, deep impressions in skin that, according to the prosecution's expert, were distinctive, unique, like a fingerprint. The state brought in a forensic odontologist who took dental casts of Ray Krone, a postal worker who had known the victim, and compared them to photographs of the wounds. He testified under oath that the match was certain. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Krone received the death penalty. He had never touched Kim Ancona. The DNA swab was standard biological evidence, collected in 1991, catalogued, frozen. For 10 years, no one tested it. In 2001, after Krone's death sentence had been overturned on appeal and he was serving life, his attorneys pushed for post-conviction DNA analysis. The Maricopa County Attorney's Office agreed. The sample went to a California lab. When the profile returned, analysts ran it through CODIS, the National DNA Database. It matched a man named Dale Haubner, already incarcerated in Arizona for a separate sex crime. Haubner had access to that bar. He had a history of violent offenses. His DNA was on the victim's body. The bite mark expert had spent months examining Ray Krone's teeth. He had testified to certainty. He had been wrong in the most complete way a forensic witness can be wrong. The actual perpetrator was already in the database. Here is what the trial record says. State's expert Dr. Raymond Rawson testified that Krone's irregular, crooked teeth created the specific indentation pattern found on Kim Ancona's neck and breast. The probability of another person producing those same marks was, in his testimony, virtually zero. He showed the jury photographic overlays. He pointed to individual tooth alignment. The jury believed him. The conviction rested almost entirely on that opinion. There were no fingerprints placing Krone at the scene, no fibers, no eyewitnesses, just a bite mark and a man who said he could read it like a name. But the trial record also shows something else. The biological swab was collected. It was logged. It was held in evidence storage for the entire duration of the trial and the decade that followed. The DNA that would have cleared him existed before the verdict was read. In 1992, DNA testing wasn't routine. The state didn't offer it. The defense didn't demand it. The bite mark was enough, because bite mark analysis occupied a position in American courtrooms that most jurors treated as settled science. Forensic odontologists had testified in hundreds of cases since the 1970s. They had professional credentials, peer-reviewed journals, white coats. When Dr. Rawson said the match was certain, no one in that courtroom had the standing to tell the jury he might simply be guessing. Because the foundational question, whether human bite marks are actually unique, whether forensic odontologists can reliably distinguish between them, had never been subjected to rigorous scientific validation. There were no controlled studies. There was no established error rate. There was confidence, and there were credentials, and the jury didn't know that those two things aren't the same as proof. After Krone's exoneration in 2002, the scientific community looked harder at bite mark evidence as a category. In 2009, the National Academy of Sciences released a landmark report on forensic science. It identified bite mark analysis as one of the least scientifically supported disciplines in regular courtroom use. No validated studies confirmed that bite marks could be uniquely attributed to a single individual. In 2016, the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology went further, concluding that bite mark evidence did not meet the scientific standards required for admission in federal court. And then researchers ran the controlled experiments that had never been done before the convictions. They gave forensic odontologists bite mark photographs and dental casts and asked them to make matches. The error rates came back in the double digits, But here is the second detail that won't let go. The year those federal advisors published their findings, 2016, bite mark evidence was still being admitted in courtrooms across the country. Cases were still being built on it. Convictions were still coming in. Ray Krone became the 100th person exonerated from death row in the United States. His case triggered reviews of bite mark convictions nationwide. Innocence Project attorneys identified more than 24 cases where bite mark testimony was the primary forensic evidence. Some of those defendants had already finished their sentences. Some were still incarcerated. When Texas examined its own bite mark cases, analysts found convictions built on testimony that used the same language of certainty Dr. Rawson used in Phoenix. The expert who testified against Krone continued to be qualified as an expert witness in other jurisdictions after the exoneration. His professional organization did not revoke his credentials. No one who put Ray Krone on death row, not the prosecutor, not the expert, not the judge who admitted the testimony, faced any professional consequence. If that swab had been tested in 1991, Ray Krone never stands trial, which means someone decided it wasn't necessary. Maybe that was negligence. Maybe it was confidence in the science. But bite mark convictions didn't stop after Krone, which means there are other swabs in other freezers, waiting.